So one of the biggest issues for our community is chronic unemployment. And this is actually one of the reasons that I get kind of even angry at phrases like high functioning autism or mild autism, because they kind of make it sound like, and and this is true to some extent, make it sound like a person is perfectly competent, perfectly able, doesn't have all that much, you know, doesn't have all that many challenges, all that kind of thing. And like I said, to a degree, that's kind of true, except that the way it turns out in an astonishing number of cases is that it ends up in chronic unemployment. I remember the first support group meeting I went to when I first was even asking the question if I'm on the spectrum or not. And I met so many people there, and I could see a huge difference between the ones that actually had a job and the ones that just completely fell through the cracks and had been unemployed for decades. And sometimes I think, is that going to be me one day? Am I going to fall through the cracks? I studied for 5 years to do an engineering degree. I worked for 5 years in engineering. And now it's been 5 years since I haven't worked in engineering anymore. So if I went to get a job now, would they still recognize my qualification? Would they still recognize my skill? Would I be treated like a grad? Would I even be given a job at all because there's so many other people that are much better at conforming to the system than I am? And I'm not really worried about that personally, because I kind of feel, I don't know if it's warranted, this confidence, but due to my age at the moment, I don't really feel like that's a problem just yet. But for the generation before me, if you're 20 or 30 years older than me and you haven't been in the workforce for 10 or 20 or 30 years, all of a sudden it becomes much harder to get back in and start becoming recognized for your skills. And um, you can imagine that if you haven't worked for 30 years, how are your social skills going to be if you've basically been outside of society for 30 years? Or how's your mental health going to be if you haven't found anyone who values what you have to offer to society? Like, that actually causes significant mental health issues. Anyway, so um, one of the things that I'm quite passionate about is speaking this kind of really highly intellectual, technical language to people who are incredibly good at their job, incredibly competent, incredibly intelligent, but don't really have the social skills to back it up, which means that they're very competent but unemployed. As was the case for so many people, especially older people, older than me, people that I've met on the spectrum. So for a very long time now, I've had the dream of teaching emotional intelligence to engineers, and I've had this even before I discovered I was on the spectrum. And so this kind of meeting more and more people like this fueled my passion for creating a resource to speak that language, to teach these kind of skills to people that desperately need them because they've been locked out of especially the workforce, but let alone other parts of society. So um, so I created this course, this Emotions Explained course. I created a comprehensive overview with 12 lessons over 4 weeks using the latest neuroscience research, clearly explaining everything in a really simple, structured way. And now what I'm realizing is that I probably should have seen this coming originally, but the people that I want to help most with this are unemployed and can't always afford it. So that's funny, because I've been focusing on putting so much value into this course. I mean, I've been giving away free stuff for years. I've been making videos, I've been sharing advice, I've been trying to help people with little free tidbits here and there. But what I realized is that it really needs a much more comprehensive approach. Like, you don't just suddenly learn social skills overnight. suddenly learn how people work, learn how emotions work overnight. It's not as hard as people think it is, but it does require a significant amount of effort and a significant amount of commitment on the part of the person actually wanting to improve themselves in those areas. I mean, this time I'm even offering personal coaching to go along with it that I'm throwing in for free, just because I realize that it needs a personal touch rather than just reading things and watching videos online, because these kind of skills need to apply to my life right here, right now. But ironically, it doesn't matter how much value I put in this, because any price tag is going to be too much for someone who doesn't have a job and is already struggling financially. So so that's a bit of a dilemma. What can we do to get these skills to the people that need them most? I mean, I'm assuming if you're watching this video, if you've been listening to me rant for the last 6 minutes about the problem of chronic unemployment, you're probably already of the belief that we need to do something about finding ways to remove the barriers for highly intelligent, highly competent people to enter the workforce and stay there and be supported, and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't have a clear answer to that. What I'm trying to do is make a course that is as accessible as I can, as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. And the autism community are really good at that. If you make something autism friendly, as I always say, it's everybody friendly. So if you know someone who uses phrases like emotional BS when they're referring to having to deal with other people, then that's probably a sign that they find people confusing and frustrating. Because if you know how people work, if you understand how emotions work, all of a sudden all of those frustrations, they almost evaporate, because you know what to do with them. It just becomes another issue in everyday life rather than this overshadowing, completely confusing problem that I've got no idea how to solve. So I've got a course coming up in November. I am really focusing on people who want to make a significant difference in their life. I'm offering, like I said, 5 free personal coaching sessions with every full-priced ticket. So there's a huge amount of value in that. I mean, there's absolutely nothing out there that I've found that is like this. So if you know someone who would benefit from that, and it's really easy to point the finger at other people and say, oh yeah, you'd benefit from that, you'd benefit from that. But what if you yourself would benefit from that? Like what? I would strongly encourage you to take a look at what I'm offering, and if you want to do it with a friend, then send me an email and I can see about giving you 2 tickets for the price of 1, because like I said, my goal here is to make this as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, and there must be a way to do this. And if doing it with a friend is what it takes for you to have the confidence and or even the money to do this, then I'm more than willing to do that. Otherwise, things you can do are things like spreading the word, letting people know about it. If someone doesn't know about the course that I'm offering, there's no way that it can benefit them. So 2 things you can do one for yourself is check out this course, see if there's a friend that would like to do it with you, and send me an email if that's the case, and I can arrange a special discount for you. Otherwise, please spread the word. Please let people know that these materials are available, and even if they can't make it in time for this course that starts the first Sunday of November, there will be more courses next year. I'll be creating more resources along these lines, again with the goal of making emotional intelligence as accessible as possible, especially to people who thought that emotions weren't for them, who think that people are confusing and have basically opted out of any unnecessary social interaction because of that, which actually really hurts us in the long run. So learning how to be social, learning how to deal with people is a crucial life skill. As Daniel Goleman said, Emotional intelligence is even more important when it comes to success than IQ, and I've seen that firsthand, again, with really, really competent people who are still chronically unemployed through no fault of their own because they haven't had the opportunity to learn these skills. So I might leave that rant there. Thanks for listening. I'll see you again soon. Bye.